help me understand this. For a department like DOGE that's basically a recommendation agency with no real executive power, why is there outrage instead of genuine surprise when it exposes government waste? Florida Representative Carlos Gimenez just said it like it is to CNN's Kaitlan Collins, and it's the perfect jumping point for me to tell you what's really going on.
He's finding waste, fraud, and abuse, all right? And he feels that he can
we haven't seen examples of fraud yet.
Billions, and oh yeah, we found some fraud, okay? Billions of dollars.
Can you name one example of fraud?
I will give you an example, sure. You know, yesterday the president talked about all these people that are 180 years old that were on the rolls, right? The Social Security rolls. Well, what's happened is some small business loans were made utilizing those Social Security numbers to verify that the individual was alive and was that individual.
Has that been recommended to the Justice Department?
It should be. $300 million in loans were given out, and not one penny was returned. So yeah, so that whole thing with Social Security, it wasn't that we were paying everybody that was on the roll, is that sometimes those folks that were obviously dead, those numbers were being utilized by other people for fraudulent purposes.
Yeah, I think a lot of those numbers, when CNN looked into them, it was about 44,000 people. When they were saying that they couldn't essentially have been alive, they actually found that they could. There were 86,000 people that were over the age of 100.
Oh, we're talking millions, okay? I mean, those are millions versus 88,000. I mean, those numbers that we had of people that were still on the roads were in the millions.
But it doesn't mean they were all getting paid, because there was an inspector general.
Nobody said they were all getting paid.
But that would be the fraud. But there is an inspector general who looks into this.
I just told you specifically what the fraud. Wait, hold on. I told you specifically what the fraud was. Okay, this fraud was there were small business loans that were given to and verified by those Social Security numbers of people that are obviously dead. They're over 115 years old, to verify that they in fact existed. And then the loans were given and they were never repaid.
But I'm just saying that is something that would be recommended to the Justice Department if there was actually fraud being committed there. That was the question that we've had about actual fraud when you talk about waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yes, Caitlin, that's the point. I don't understand the nonchalant attitude to finding that is not even contented anymore, even if you don't think the discrepancies in Social Security constitute fraud per se. By the way, we're having some of the most important conversations here at Millionaire Mentors, so please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss out. Now, the SBA, or the Small Business Administration, as a separate U.S. government agency, has already been found to have handed out loans worth over $300 million during the pandemic to children under 11. And since DOGE has revealed that many of them were taken under false Social Security numbers and never returned, it's not hard to believe that there was some deliberate fraud here. Reminds me of something Bernie Sanders said a few weeks ago, scoffing at the idea that there were any people over 115 years old receiving Social Security checks, but that's the whole point. They're not. Someone else is. Now, is there room for nuance? Of course, because I do believe the proposed job cuts to downsize the Veteran Affairs Department needs extra care and insider input for DOGE.
But let me ask you, because you have veterans who live in your district, and we have an internal memo that says that they are recommending 70,000 job cuts at Veterans Affairs. Do you believe that that is the right step? Is that going to benefit veterans here in the United States?
I would say that the agency head over Veterans Affairs, the cabinet secretary, needs to verify that. All right, it's up to them. Look, in my druthers, what I would have done a little bit different. I used to be the mayor of Miami-Dade County, and I did cut Miami-Dade County a lot when I was the mayor. You have to have people that understand the government, how it works, and then you have to have some people that give you a little bit different perspective. Hey, look over there, and then you can make that judgment call whether, hey, yeah, I'll accept that, or no, I won't, because I understand exactly how that works. I think that today I was pleasantly surprised that yes, Elon Musk is actually using people that are inside those agencies to kind of guide them through, but some of those agency folks are also making some mistakes. But you're not going to throw out the entire operation or the exercise simply because you're making some mistakes.
And that's in light of the fact that the employee count at the VA department has increased by almost 80,000 under the Joe Biden presidency, now over 470,000. That means this would be more like an audit for why such a rapid increase in the department's size is justified in such a short period of time, especially when it's one of the largest departments with a lot of potential room for efficiency. What I think also gets lost in all of the media haze is what the welfare programs like VA, income protection during the pandemic, Social Security, or healthcare constitute some of the largest expenditures for the US government. Meanwhile, the fiscal deficit has stretched to nearly $2 trillion. And that's deficit and national debt that ultimately will always come out of the taxpayer's pocket, whether directly or indirectly. There has to be a point where someone puts an end to this vicious cycle and a spiral into debt. And since past administrations have been comfortable with ballooning budgets and employee headcounts, trying to put an end to that won't necessarily be as comfortable.
Sometimes, are they being transparent enough with the mistakes? Because they'll post contracts or numbers that they say they've gotten on their website, and then quietly they're deleted. It's only because reporters notice that they've been deleted that attention is drawn to it.
Well, they found that there
Should
was, of course, when you make a mistake, you own up to it and say, oh, hey, I was mistaken, because then that leads to your credibility. If you just say, no, that wasn't a mistake, it really was a mistake, but I'm not going to hide it. No, I like the fact that, hey, we made a mistake, take it away, and it was a mistake. You know, you own up to it, and then that leads credence and gives you credibility with us in Congress, but also the American people.
That answer from Carlos Gimenez really disarmed that line of questioning, and I think that's the most rational middle ground to take. Meanwhile, the mere fact that there's someone pulling out old records and putting them on display for the American taxpayer are already revealing things that would be scandalous at any normal time. Here's the report from the Office of the Inspector General from last year on Social Security payments, that of the trillions of dollars spent on Social Security, nearly $72 billion were counted as improper payments or overpayments. And yes, while it's a small amount in comparison, $72 billion is staggeringly high. For comparison, that's enough by some estimates to build a house for every homeless person in the US. That deserves a deeper look and a track for where that money is going and who's receiving it. And Scott Jennings on this panel agrees that it's ultimately best for Elon Musk to get more representatives from Congress on board to his visit to Capitol Hill.
Scott, your thoughts on Elon Musk taking this trip to Capitol Hill? Do you think it was the right move?
Absolutely. Good idea. And I'd just give him one more piece of public relations advice, which is at some point they'll have collected enough information and put together enough of a presentation where they could go up to a hearing, have members of Congress ask them questions about it, and really display for the American people the waste, fraud, and abuse that they're finding and what they might want to do about it. I do think members of Congress should be brought in on this. I think this meeting is a good step. Eventually, a public presentation, I think, would help the president and the whole Republican Party with the project of cutting government.
What should that look like? On Capitol Hill or?
Absolutely. A hearing. I think we ought to do it.
You think Elon Musk should testify on Capitol Hill about what he's doing?
I think that Elon and his team and the people that the president designates who have been working on this project, I think they should have no fears, because I do think they are finding things. I think the American people need to know about it. And I think if the president is going to continue to sell a program where we're reducing the size of government, they're going to have more than enough evidence to make the political case.
I agree. There does need to be some kind of public hearing that puts all of these facts on display and on record for the American people, and I think that's eventually going to happen at some point in the future. In the meantime, I think there has to be some recognition for how novel it is for a whole department like DOGE to be dedicated to slashing government expenditures against the interest and tendency of the federal government. But let me know in the comments if you agree, because it's still too early to pass judgment on the impact this has on the government, the national debt, or the fiscal deficit, which are problems that have been screaming for attention for decades at this point.